He was searching for answers, but found only the abyss. Now the demon uses his body to finish what was started thousands of years ago. Ura Valley, Bhutan, 1995. 4 American tourists are hiking through the mountains, mesmerized by the mysterious beauty of the landscape. Everything they see and touch fascinates them. The monks, the crumbling monasteries, and the ancient artifacts covered in strange inscriptions create a mystical atmosphere that draws travelers from all over the world. As the 2 young couples climb higher into the mountains, they come across an old metal bridge decorated with 1,000 bells. The structure looks unstable, but they press on, eager to witness the breathtaking view from the nearby peak. When the 4 friends finally reach their destination, one of them, Paul, begins to hear a strange sound. At first, he's sure it's just his imagination, but the sound grows louder and more distinct, as if calling to him with an eerie allure. Trying to find the source of the haunting hum, Paul takes a few steps forward, and suddenly plunges into a crevice between the rocks. Terrified, Ruthie begs Greg to climb down and rescue her boyfriend. Securing a rope, Greg descends into the narrow chasm but can't see Paul anywhere, which immediately feels unsettling. Deep inside, he finds a small passage crawling with insects, yet he keeps moving forward, lighting the way with his flashlight. After a few meters, Greg spots his friend sitting motionless before a terrifying skeleton. The bones look unnaturally arranged, and the way the dead man's hands are folded sends a chill down Greg's spine. Wanting to get out of there as fast as possible, he urges Paul to stand up and leave, but Paul sits frozen, staring blankly. The only thing he says is, "Touch me, and you'll die." At first, Greg doesn't understand, but Paul keeps repeating the same phrase, like a dreadful warning. Unsure whether to believe him, Greg hesitates. His friend's voice sends shivers down his back, yet he can't leave him behind. Mustering his courage, Greg lifts Paul onto his shoulders and carries him out. As they descend the mountain, the group crosses the bridge again, hoping to find someone who can help. But the weather turns harsh, and a snowstorm begins to sweep in. They take shelter in an abandoned cabin nearby. While examining Paul, the others find a strange flute, a small instrument seemingly carved from human bone. None of them can understand what caused Paul's paralysis. He has no visible injuries, yet he won't move or speak. Greg suspects some kind of neurological shock, a mental breakdown, maybe. He insists that Paul needs a doctor, but the nearest road is 8 kilometers away, and venturing out in that weather would be suicide. Late that night, Ruthie stays by Paul's side, unwilling to leave him. Out of curiosity, she picks up the bone flute and blows into it. For a brief moment, it feels like the world falls completely silent. Then she hears faint, unsettling noises, footsteps, perhaps, as if someone is walking just outside the door. Trembling, Ruthie checks the cabin, but everyone else is fast asleep. Day 2, realizing that Paul isn't getting any better, Greg and Fiona head out to find help. While watching over her boyfriend, Ruthie notices someone standing near the cabin. Thinking it might be a local who can help, she steps outside and calls out, only to realize this figure isn't entirely human. The strange being, wrapped in rags, doesn't speak a word and slowly begins moving toward her, as if about to attack or kill. Panicking, Ruthie runs back inside and locks the door. Moments later, there's a knock, but it's not the creature. It's Greg and Fiona, back from their search, who insist they saw no one nearby. That night, Paul whispers something into Ruthie's ear, and by morning, he's gone. Seeing footprints in the snow, the others follow his trail. They reach the same bridge and find Paul sitting motionless in front of it. Greg and Fiona, thinking he's just trying to mess with them, confront him angrily. Greg begs him to stop playing games, accusing Paul of faking his condition. But when Paul raises his eyes, a faint whisper fills the air, and everyone hears it. The sound seems to take hold of Ruthie. In a trance-like state, she pulls out a hidden knife and attacks Paul, stabbing him several times before pushing him off the cliff. Then, overcome by the same eerie force, she kills Fiona and sends her falling after Greg. Taking one last look at Paul, Ruthie leaps into the abyss herself, not wanting to interrupt him as he plays the old bone flute. Webster County, Missouri, 2018. James Lassombra, a former police officer, is still haunted by the deaths of his wife and young son. He now runs a small store selling self-defense gear, living in near total isolation and deep depression. One day, he decides to grab lunch at a diner, using a birthday coupon. The staff wish him a happy birthday, a small, bittersweet reminder of how alone he really is. When he gets home, James spots his neighbor, a college student named Amanda, and starts a conversation. She tries to comfort him, saying that healing after loss is possible. According to her, the human soul can't truly be harmed, because the reality around us isn't real at all. There's something greater, stronger, and far older than our perception of existence, and understanding that, she says, is the key to spiritual freedom. That night, James is plagued by nightmares and the same crushing guilt over his family's death. The only thing that helps him sleep is a strong dose of sleeping pills, which he takes nightly. The next morning, he goes to check on Amanda, only to learn from her mother, Nora, that the girl has vanished. She didn't just run away, she left a disturbing message behind. A bloody smear on the window reading, "The empty man made me do it." Police arrived to collect blood samples and question both Nora and James. He admits he didn't know Amanda well but promises to help Nora find her. From the tone of the investigation, it's clear the police aren't taking the case seriously. They assume Amanda simply ran away. Feeling sorry for Nora and uneasy about the strange message, James decides to take matters into his own hands. While going through Amanda's belongings, the former cop finds a brochure for the Pontifex Institute and a word written on the back, Tulpa. He heads to the institute to talk to Amanda's friends. Devara tells him that a few days earlier, she and her friends were hanging out at an old bridge. Everything seemed harmless until Amanda started telling the legend of the empty man. According to the story, if you find an empty bottle on the bridge after sunset and blow into it while thinking about the empty man, he'll come for you. On the first night, you hear him. On the second night, you see him. And on the third night, he comes for you. It all sounded silly and made up, but as they were leaving the bridge, Amanda spotted an empty bottle and suggested they do the ritual. Most of them were scared the legend might actually be true, but no one wanted to look like a coward. So, they blew into the bottle, focusing their thoughts on the empty man. Then Amanda sat down in the middle of the bridge and started to call him. It felt like a funny little game, until the wind stopped and the birds went silent. Suddenly, there was a strange sound, like someone far away blowing back through another bottle. Terrified, the teens ran off, but ever since that night, strange things have been happening, things you could see with your own eyes. For example, yesterday Devara saw Amanda whispering something weird into her boyfriend's ear. And now, a few students are frozen in strange, rigid poses, staring blankly at James and Devara. When James tries to find Amanda's other friends, he discovers they've all disappeared. In one girl's house, he finds another Pontifex Institute pamphlet, and notices a dark, blank screen on the wall that seems to draw his attention. Outside, he finds the blood-drained body of a dog and begins to suspect Amanda and her friends got involved in some kind of cult. Later, the ex-cop drives to the old bridge to check it out himself. He finds an empty bottle and, before throwing it away, decides to blow into it. At first, nothing happens, but then the world goes silent. Even the birds stop singing. The only thing James can hear is a dull knocking sound coming from beneath the bridge. He climbs down through a maintenance hatch and finds 5 students hanging there. The knocking turns out to be the heel of one of the bodies tapping against a pipe. Moments later, police arrive at the scene, and James finds yet another Pontifex Institute flyer. Meanwhile, Devara tries to relax at a spa, but the horror follows her. At one point, she sees the empty man himself, a ragged figure in tatters. He attacks her, stabbing her face with scissors. Devara bleeds out and dies. But then it becomes clear the empty man wasn't real. She had been holding the scissors herself and took her own life. After learning about this, the detective loses faith in the police, and in his own ability to make sense of what's happening. A series of strange deaths and murders has swept through the state over the past few months. Each case mentions the empty man, but no one's ever seen him, and the surveillance footage always shows nothing. James doesn't know how to catch something that doesn't exist, and he's convinced Amanda is dead, just like the others. When James gets home, he listens to the audio recording of his conversation with Devara and tries to find information about the Pontifex Institute, but there's nothing online. That's when he learns that a tulpa is a physical form created by the power of thought. A little later, Nora visits James, needing both emotional and physical comfort. Even though they once had an affair, he can't bring himself to get close to her again. Their secret relationship already ended in tragedy. A year ago, Nora's husband died, and James stayed to comfort her. While they were together, his wife and son went on a trip and got into a fatal car accident. He's carried that guilt ever since. That night, James wakes up from another nightmare. At exactly 3:04 a.m., he hears strange noises, like someone's inside his house. The ex-cop turns on the lights to check, but someone instantly shuts them off. Panicking, he locks himself in the bedroom and sees footsteps moving outside the door. Grabbing a baseball bat, he bursts out, ready to fight, but the house is empty, and the front door is wide open. Day 2. James discovers that the Pontifex Institute is a mysterious cult, a community of people trying to understand themselves and the world. When he gets hold of a potential member's questionnaire, the questions and quotes are bizarre, challenging the very idea of what's real. He sneaks into a seminar held by the cult's spiritual leader, who claims that thoughts are real and tangible, and that collective thinking can lead to extraordinary consequences. This man insists that reality is just an illusion we create, and that the future depends not on our actions, but on our thoughts. Some thoughts, he says, are our own, but most are ancient messages transmitted into our minds through a channel that stretches back through history. James dismisses it all as nonsense and arranges a private meeting with the leader. He questions the very foundation of existence and reality itself, but as a pragmatic man, he only believes in what he can actually see. Taking advantage of the moment, he sneaks into other rooms to look for Amanda. He finds a strange dorm full of people praying in front of black screens, and another group clutching empty bottles, trying to summon the empty man. When James accidentally makes a noise, they think it's the empty man's presence, which the skeptical ex-cop almost finds funny. Eventually, James is thrown out of the building. Outside, he meets Garrett, who claims to know where Amanda is hiding. He gives James the coordinates of an old abandoned camp where disturbing rituals and sacrifices supposedly took place. Deep in the woods, James doesn't find anyone alive, but he does find files on Amanda and the murdered teens. The most horrifying part is that among the documents, there's also a folder with his own name, completely empty. In another cabin, he discovers a videotape labeled Incarnation 13. On it are recordings of people so obsessed with the idea of the tulpa that they've rejected reality entirely. James remains skeptical, until he turns around and realizes the stuffed bear that had been lying behind him has vanished without a trace. Late at night, James is planning to leave the camp when he suddenly notices a light across the river. As he gets closer, he sees 100 fanatical cult members running around a massive bonfire. They're singing and whispering something so eerily that at one point James loses touch with reality. It feels as if the fire is rising into the sky, and he quickly realizes he needs to get out of there. The moment James turns away, the fire goes out, and the crowd moves toward the river. They react to every movement he makes, chasing him as he runs for his life. The mysterious cultists surround his car and even jump on the hood, but James manages to drive away. He tells a detective about it, but the detective doesn't believe him and even subtly blames him for trespassing on private property. James realizes he can only count on himself and needs to take action. After escaping the police station, he arms himself in his shop and heads to Nora. He suspects someone is watching her house and that she's in danger, so he urges her to pack quickly and follow him. At one point, a phone rings, and a mysterious voice whispers on the line, but James ignores it. He drops Nora off at a hotel outside the city and returns home. That night, James wakes up again from a nightmare and feelings of guilt. He decides to have a smoke, but at 3:04 a.m., he hears a strange rustling from the living room. Looking out, he sees the empty man, first attacking, then vanishing without a trace. On the porch, James finds the same stuffed bear and realizes it's time to stop taking sleeping pills. He must stay alert at all times. Day 3. James decides to follow Garrett and his friends. He sees more than 10 people crammed into a single car just to get to the hospital. While following them, the former cop witnesses a bizarre scene. People kneel before an elderly man in a coma, praying to him. To learn more, James kidnaps and questions Garrett. Garrett explains that thought is material and can be transmitted. The combined human consciousness can create an alternate sphere where not only images but physical objects, like the empty man, can appear. The elderly man in the coma is a relay, an antenna transmitting these ancient signals. While explaining this, Garrett watches James and realizes that he's infected too. On the first night, he heard the empty man. The second night, he saw him, and tonight, the empty man will come for him. Desperate not to lose his mind, James continues his investigation. Sneaking again into the basement of the Pontifex Institute, he examines materials on Embodiment 14. The elderly man in the hospital is Paul, moved between states and hospitals since 1995. No one knows exactly what's wrong with him, but he's constantly surrounded by people and hundreds of guests ready to pay for life support equipment and medication. James finds a folder with his name again, but this time it's filled with documents, photos, and notes covering almost his entire life. Among them, he discovers several photos showing him in a creepy, unfamiliar place, yet he doesn't remember anyone taking them. Back at the hospital, the former cop tries to dig up more information about the patient and learns about a visitor, Amanda. Everyone believes she was dead, but not only is she alive, she's perfectly healthy, yet she has no intention of going home. She's needed for Embodiment 14 and is caring for him, explaining the importance of the original signals carrier. James decides to call her mother to let her know he's found her, but instead of Nora, a completely unfamiliar woman answers the phone. Amanda explains that the tulpa is weakening and needs a replacement. The true carriers of the ancient, millennia-old signal have exhausted themselves, so she and the cult followers decided to experiment and create a being capable of taking its place. She shocks James by revealing that he himself is the tulpa. He tries to resist believing it, but the voice inside him grows louder, as if it's devouring his mind and essence. Fighting his own mind, James realizes that Nora, the tragedy with his son, and his wife, none of it was real. It's a script of his life written by others. It was all fabricated by false memories. He has only been in this world for 3 days. Trying to reject this reality, James runs, but the empty man chases him down and completely consumes his essence. Looking back on the events of the past days, James understands the truth. He was the empty man, the one creating the terrifying noises. Accepting his nature, James kills Paul and becomes Embodiment 15. Now he is the empty man, and the cult members kneel before him, bowing to their new leader. Is there a line between faith and madness? If both can unlock doors to the unknown? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.